knowing everything you know today, what is the one piece of advice you'd go back and give yourself before you started your career? This has actually become one of my favorite parts of the interviews because it's like at the point when I ask the question at the end of an hour, the guest has already gone through all their lessons, all these experiences that they had. I think I kind of get them in this reflection mode, and we get really authentic answers to the question. And I find myself sometimes when people are giving me the answer, I find myself thinking, wow, I wish I had that piece of advice early in my career. And it's not just that the advice, I mean, some of the things are maybe things that are semi obvious, but it's not even that. It's the way that people word it. It's really concise, thought provoking. I find it easy to remember the way that they say it. And so I went through and I selected some of my favorite answers to that question. And again, things that I really wish I knew. And I like this because these are things that are relevant to you as a CEO, to a leader. Frankly, anyone in their professional career can use this advice. It is truly relevant to everyone. And so I'm going to go through and give you my favorites. But before I do that, I'm going to actually share with you my one piece of advice. And if I had to sum it all up, if I had to give myself a really one concise piece of advice, it would be trust your gut. That really has to do with everything, right? You think about, I think about these experiences where I'm interviewing people early in my career. I'm young. I'm in my early 20s. I'm interviewing candidates for a job, and I can feel if they're good, not like specifically for the role I'm hiring at the company I'm running, and I would let investors or some senior executive I hired or a group of employees that had interviewed the person really convince me to go against my gut. And that was in both directions, but most of the time when I felt like people weren't a good fit and we'd hire them. And I'd say I was correct 90% of the time. I mean, usually that spidey sense, like about that yellow or red flag, turned out to be right. And I wish I trusted my gut on that. It could have to do with strategies or initiatives or things that you're doing. I have very, very distinct memories of being in the room with a ad agency that we had hired, a marketing agency, and they were helping us with some campaign, and they did this massive presentation, and they worked with this brand and this famous brand, and it was really a really bad idea. And we were paying them a lot of money for it. But again, I felt like, well, they've worked with all these other brands. They have much more experience than I have, and I should trust them. And I feel like every time I've gone against my gut, I missed in one way or another. And so when I think about it, that's my piece of advice. And I think it has to do with imposter syndrome a lot. Like I think we all have imposter syndrome to some level. And even though I've had a quote unquote successful career, I still have it. I talk to CEOs who have sold their companies for multiple billions of dollars and they still have it. And I think when you have that imposter syndrome, it kind of holds you back sometimes from making that call and going with that gut feel. And to me, I kind of think about it and say, if I can make a decision now by going with my gut, and I can be right 90% of the time, but make the decision 90% faster or 50% faster or something like that, then it's worth it. And so, anyway, if you can tell, I have definitely a lot of scars from this, but that's the advice that I would give myself, and I still have to give myself, frankly, as I think about it.